What's going on, guys and gals? Chris, the Bonafide Hustler, coming to you live from the inside of my office. We have an amazing show this evening, and here I am with Josh G. What's going on, Josh? How you doing, man?
Doing well. How are you?
Doing okay. So Josh is here. He's the guest on the show, and we're going to be talking about finding profitable items with a metal detector, and it's going to be a lot of fun. But anyways, I'm the Bonafide Hustler. On a part-time basis, I am flipping things that I find from garage sales, estate sales, flea markets, pawn shops, swap meets, big box stores, and even thrift stores. And I'm putting on places like eBay, Amazon, Craigslist, my antique booth, and consignment stores in town. I'm one of the owners of thegreenroomuniversity.com. You can go check it out. Second link down below. But let's get to the broadcast today. We have a special guest, Josh, who I did hustle with about maybe 3 or 4 ride-alongs ago. He was there along with Green Room member Andrew. But anyways, behind the scenes, when we were at a Taco Deli, we got to talking about metal detecting, and I had no idea this was one of his hobbies. And I was really intrigued with not only his stories, but just the entire metal detecting aspect altogether. So I'm a complete noob, and that's kind of like the angle of the show that we're going, is we're going to be talking to someone who's been doing it for quite a while and see what we can get out of it, see if it's something that you might want to do, or maybe it's an interesting kind of hobby that you might want to pick up on your spare time. But that's what the show is about, so hit the like button. Let's get to Josh. Josh, what's going on? How are you?
Doing well.
Doing well. Okay, so where are you from, Josh? And because I think you recently moved to Austin, Texas, correct?
Correct. I'm originally from Michigan, so I moved to Austin, Texas about a little over 3 years ago. So about 3.5 years ago. So I've been in Austin for, moved here for a job. So as most
Cool.
people do. But
How's the weather here? Do you like it?
weather is much better here than Michigan right now. Back in Michigan, it's like 30 degrees and snow everywhere. I don't miss it too much. So.
We're going to be getting into the metal detecting kind of thing, but do you miss the metal detecting maybe in Michigan versus Austin?
Yeah, definitely. There's more free range kind of over land in Michigan, like not in Texas. Everything seems to be accounted for. Everyone owns every piece of square inch of land in Texas. So you have to be really careful with where you metal detect in Texas, not just Austin, but Texas overall, like as a whole. So a lot of our metal detecting in Texas comes from permissions and private properties and really reaching outside the box from what I used to do in Michigan. And in Michigan, I came from an area of Michigan in the Upper Peninsula where they're known for their copper mining. So it's a big copper industry up there, where it used to be back in the late 1800s or mid to late 1800s into the early 1900s. So copper naturally occurred up there as float copper. There's really 3 different ways it forms, like float copper, which was actually formed in these volcanic pockets in the basalt in the surrounding rock, in the bedrock. Then the float copper was actually formed by glaciers peeling out the copper from these volcanic pockets and depositing them all over the land. So you can actually find these huge chunks of float copper, natural copper, all around the Upper Peninsula of Michigan, the west side of the Upper Peninsula of Michigan. So that's what really got me into metal detecting, because you can take a metal detector, go out into the woods on public land, and find these minerals that are naturally occurring in the form of copper. So, and sometimes when it was actually a money-making opportunity, because at one point the copper was, I think, the demand rose. So there was about it was about $4 a pound for quite a while. So people were finding float copper like mad and just selling it for scrap, because you could easily find a 100-pound piece of copper.
100
$4
pounds?
a pound. Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, the biggest piece I've ever found was probably 15 to 16 pounds, and it's not. I wish I had it close to me, but it's in my storage unit. It's not worth keeping in here, but so it's large. And you do the math: 100 pounds at $4 a pound. It's an easy $400. So you can really make some decent money doing that. But right now I think copper's around $2 a pound, so it's still relatively profitable if you're having fun doing it. So just searching for the copper. So I do miss, getting back to your question, I do miss that aspect of metal detecting in Michigan. Not only were, that's how I primarily started out. Then it kind of gradually escalated into finding, getting interested in finding relics and coins and stuff like that. So.
Cool. So before we get more into the story, how can people start following your journey? Because you do have an Instagram, right?
I do have an Instagram. That's about the only way you can follow me social media wise, unless you want to come metal detecting with me sometime, which I'm sure we could arrange. But um, my username on Instagram is Smay Smosh. It's kind of an old nickname that I acquired somehow from friends back in Michigan. And that's spelled SMAYSMOSH.
Smay
So
Smosh. Okay, so I'm going to put the
yeah,
at symbol here,
that's on the
SMAYSMOSH. MAYSMOSH. Okay, cool. So that's how they can follow your journey, right?
yep. Yeah, you'll
Okay,
see all kinds of
so
different things on there.
okay. So let's kind of go
Thank
to
you.
the very bird's eye kind of thing. Like, what is metal detecting? Like, are there variants of metal detecting, or is it just kind of like, if someone was to say like, oh yeah, you're a reseller, that's great. But then there's like eBay resellers, there's Etsy resellers, there's freaking FBA,
Oh yeah.
there's FBA, there's OARA, there's all kinds of stuff going on. Um, I mean, there's not really one type of reselling, right? So
Okay.
metal detecting, like, what is metal detecting to you?
So metal detecting, for people who may not know, it's the process of using an electronic device to find metallic objects in the ground, whether they're ferrous or non-ferrous metals. So, and you could, it's basically, it could either be a hobby or it could be a profession, or by default, it could just be your job if you're in the military. So the military uses metal detecting to find landmines. Airports use metal detectors to find uh, objects in your pockets that maybe shouldn't be there. I use a metal detector for a hobby to find old coins and relics. Then there, like you said, there's different types of eBayers. There's different types of metal detectorists. There's the prospector, where you can go out in Australia in the outback and search for gold nuggets, which is a very profitable hobby if you find the right places, because most people know gold is worth quite a bit per ounce right now. So
So people are going around with
um,
these like metal detectors, not necessarily picking up rings or watches or bullets or coins, but they're finding nuggets in Australia. Some people, right?
yeah, there's actually, I don't remember the show name, and maybe I shouldn't give shout outs to shows on Netflix, but probably doesn't matter. There's actually a show on Netflix that is basically takes you through how they metal detect in Australia. It's a whole kind of series, kind of documentary style show of metal
Wow.
detecting in Australia. Pretty fascinating. So it was easy for me to binge watch that one. Let's say
So
that.
that's basically what metal detecting
And
is then, right? It's basically using some electronic device of some sort and detecting metal under the ground somehow or on a
yeah,
body or something like that, right?
yeah, and there's also water detecting. I mean, my metal detector is actually waterproof to 10 feet, so you can actually go scuba diving while metal detecting.
Dude, that's
So if
crazy. Really?
your hobby might be, yeah, your hobby might be diving shipwrecks with deep sea, like a deep sea metal detector, one that can go 100 foot plus. I would love to do that someday. I would love to get scuba certified and do all that someday, but I can only do so much right now. And the common metal detecting hobbyist is kind of what I do is you go to old farm fields or old schoolyards or old homes, um, private properties and stuff like that, and parks with the right permissions. And you got to make sure there's no ordinances against it. So you have to know your metal detecting laws. So there's a lot that goes into it, especially for metal detecting around your towns. So you have to know your laws, your local laws. So, and Austin actually has some pretty strict laws against metal detecting in parks and stuff. So that's why we have to be so selective and get private permissions because of these certain ordinances. So, and every time we go
Yeah.
to east, west, north, south, we have to look up these ordinances and laws to make sure we're going to be compliant with the laws.
Wow. I guess it's no different than FBA, like when you're sending in something that has to be polybagged or it has to be this or that. And, you have to, there's all kinds of stipulations, like does it have a battery or does it not have a battery? Like there's all these things you have to follow before you can even get that thing to market. Just like you have to follow rules and regulations even to get yourself there to do some metal detecting. So, but it doesn't sound like it's something too crazy. Like clearly the hobby is really fun, right?
Oh yeah, it's a blast. And for a newcomer, I will give a word of advice. Don't give up, because you might not have a a good detector, your first detector, you want to buy something a little cheaper to make sure you understand and want to pursue the hobby, because you don't want to initially invest a lot of money, which could be comparable to the newbie hustler. You know, you might want to not invest a lot of time because of certain resources you don't know are available to you or something like that. So as you progress, you start finding better items, you learn more about the hobby, and then it becomes a lot more fun after you get past those frustrating parts where you're not really finding anything, so to speak. So
Okay.
once you get past that, just make sure you have fun with it, and you'll be okay.
Cool.
So,
So let's backtrack a little bit. I want to actually
sure.
ask this question to the audience real quick. Like, what's the neatest thing that you've ever found at a beach or maybe a park, and something you might have found like on the ground? Like, what's the neatest thing you ever found without metal detecting, just something on the ground or at a beach? Let me know in the comments below. Let's go into the actual outline right here. I have a series of questions I want to ask you. So this is something that anybody can pick up, but you said don't get discouraged. It can get discouraged. You said it for a reason, right? Because it can get discouraging at first, correct?
Absolutely. Yep. I strongly agree that I would say 99% of people can pick up this hobby. You know, there may be some people out there that just physically can't operate a metal detector, and that's just kind of how the world is.
Physically
But
can't. What do you
I would
mean
say
by physically can't? Define that.
maybe they're amputees or something. You know,
Oh,
so
okay. I
that's the
thought you
one
meant like they
percent.
just can't pick it up and walk around with it. I was like, it seems pretty easy to do.
Yeah, yeah. I'm actually in the Austin Metal Detecting Club. I served as the vice president this year, and I didn't get the chance to do this activity, but our club helps out the Lions camp in Kerrville, Texas, I believe. And this camp is kind of special needs. A lot of deaf and visually impaired children are there, and then we actually set them up with metal detectors and scatter out foreign coins on the ground and let them go around with the metal detectors and find these coins on the ground. So even though they can't see, they can still hear. But even though they can't hear, they can still feel. So
Wow,
even
that's crazy. Yeah.
deaf can really excel with this hobby with a little bit of modification to the metal detectors. So some of them have little vibrating indicators on them, or some have a light that lights up to let them know that they're over a target. So yeah,
Oh,
like
that's neat.
anyone can pick it up. There's really not much of an excuse not to do it.
Right.
So
My extent with metal detecting is very limited. I've hustled maybe 3 of those Garrett, those old kind of green Garrett, like with the green kind of boxy
oh yeah,
looking thing at the top, and the head is like some off kind of white looking thing.
yep,
I know it's made by Garrett because I've hustled like 3 of the same exact thing. I want to say
yep.
that they took an absurd amount of 9 volts. Maybe it's like something weird. Like it was just, it was something. It was like maybe a quantity 4 or 6 of some odd battery. I just remember that much. It might have been 9
Yeah,
volts.
I don't have much experience with those because those are before my time, but I see them out there in the field being used once in a while, and those old metal detectors they did take a lot of battery, and
Yeah.
they didn't last very long. The batteries
So someone
would
here
suck them
says,
right
I
in.
have a Tesoro Compadre. What is that?
Oh, I had the same machine actually. It's an entry level machine, but it's a great machine. So it's about 160 bucks brand new. You can basically take that out, and it's basically one dial you turn on. Starts up as your battery life, then you can just has a little dial to notch out nails or coin, like pull tabs, which are
Yeah.
the tab off the top of a soda can. So that's a great starter machine, and I actually had one just as a backup to play with for a while, and I was pretty successful with it. So you don't like that goes to show you don't need an expensive machine to be successful in the hobby either. So that's a great machine to start out with if anyone's looking for one. So.
Cool. Um, so it is fun. You said that. This is my next question. Is it fun? Is there a community, much like reselling has a community? So let's get to that. It clearly is fun.
Oh,
Is there a community on YouTube for metal detecting? And if so, who's someone to follow right now?
there is a huge community on YouTube, and I have a little list down the line here, but we'll get to that. But I'd like to recommend everyone follow the Hoover Boys.
The Hoover
The Hoover,
Boys?
yes,
Okay.
and they're a riot. They found a lot of good. They're out of the East Coast, so they find a lot of older items, older coins dating back to sometimes the late 1600s. A lot of 1700s coins. So they like to find coins, as do I, but they find a lot of cool relics too. And the way he puts together the videos are really nice. So it's fun to watch. It's a
Okay.
good experience watching.
Hoover Boys. I will definitely look at that right after this
They actually
broadcast.
have, new episodes come out every single Wednesday. So
Okay, somebody's a fan here, clearly. So every Wednesday, a new video comes up by the Hoover Boys, and that's someone definitely
yeah,
to look at. Okay, cool. Vincent Grisanti is saying the Curse of Oak Island is my favorite. What is that?
oh
I guess
yes,
I know what the curse is. I know what Oak Island is all about. That's the thing with like the pit, and everyone's trying to do expeditions there. Sorry, excavations. They're not expeditions, and no one's figured out like what the cavity is all about, or like the planks and all. Right?
yeah. People either love that show or they hate that show because they never really find much. But it's the thrill of the hunt that really kind of draws me into the show. So I really enjoy it.
I watched that show.
You're kind
It
of
like ended on a camera in a cavity way down below where they sonogram. I don't know. They did something, and it like showed like a square cavity underneath the ground, way under the ground. It
yeah.
was the weirdest thing. But then that's where the season ended. I never picked it up after that. I don't know if they ever found anything there, but anyway.
I don't remember either. It's a good show though.
Yeah, that's one of the stories. If you ever want a cool story, like look up the Oak Island mystery story. As a treasure story, right? And just look it up and just dissect it on Wikipedia or whatever. And it is fascinating. Like even when I was a little kid, I remember reading this story in books, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, that is amazing." To this day, people are still convinced there's something down there, but like no one can get far enough without the seawater coming in or something like. Anyways, you got to like check it out. It's pretty cool. Okay, so like hustling is to reselling, what words are associated or used as slang in relation to metal detecting? So like hustling is like a reselling word, right? What would like
Yes.
be a slang or associated kind of word with metal detecting to be cool with like the metal detector people?
Uh, there's a show out there that has popularized some of these slang words that aren't really fun to say, but I'll go through a few others. Well, that show is called Diggers, and people who know it know it. They're kind of eccentric. They're kind of goofy, and they say a lot of words like roundness in the hole or juice, and to describe what they're finding. Like roundness would be a coin, juice would be like a lot of good items being found all at once or something. But some of the terms that we use, and like my friends and I will use, like it's pretty nationwide too. I don't know about overseas, but we use terms like dirt fishing, which is like you're metal detecting the ground, you're fishing in the ground, so they call it dirt fishing.
That's
A lot
pretty
of people
cool.
think metal detecting is dirt fishing. I don't say that term too often, but I call metal detecting just hunting. So we go hunting.
Okay.
So it's, and I have to be very careful when I'm asking for permissions at homes. Like, hey, can I do some hunting here? They're like, what? What? I mean, metal detecting. So they get, because they're not used to hearing that. But another one is can slaw. We'll chop up a can really fine, then we just find the shards of it laying around in the lawn.
Oh, so
So it's
that's
called,
like if you find shards of something that's not valuable, then, right?
yeah, yeah. Uh, clad coins. Like, oh, what'd you find? Just found some clad. Like it's just a modern day coinage, basically.
Okay.
Um, Something we
So would a
say.
buffalo nickel be clad or no? That's not modern day. That's
No,
still good stuff, right?
that's good. Yeah, it's we don't consider it clad. Um, that's what we consider a good coin. So
Where does clad in a good coin like kind of like where is its kind of stop?
uh,
Or where's the boundary, sort of?
okay, the boundary for my good coins are, since we're in Texas, people might have other opinions on the East Coast because they find much older items, like say pennies. The boundary is 1958 and before. Anything after 1958 is considered clad, because clad is actually a term used of how they kind of manufacture the coins. I think it's like copper plated zinc. It's like a clad coin, or a quarter is like something nickel plated copper. I don't remember. I'm not too fluent in that, but like for dimes, anything after 1964 would be considered clad. Everything 64 and older would be silver. So it's a precious metal,
Okay.
which is kind of what we're for. So the list goes on. Um, Yeah, another term we use is coin ball. So sometimes when you're digging a hole, or you locate your target and you dig your plug, and you pop the plug out, and this ball comes out and it has a coin inside the dirt ball, and you can use your pinpointer, which is this device. It actually is a small metal detector to help locate your target inside of your plug or your hole, so you can recover your targets faster. So
Okay.
that starts going off. That's really dirty. That starts going off with a coin inside of a clump of dirt. We just call that a coin ball. So
That's
then
funny.
there's like other things, like every coin pretty much has a slang term for it. Like we call wheat pennies or wheatback cents, we just call them Wheaties. If you're not familiar with a Wheatie, this is what a Wheatie looks like. It's kind of it's got a
Oh,
essentially
I've
one
seen
cent
those
on the.
before. Yeah. I think we've all seen a Wheatie before.
Oh yeah. They manufactured these or minted these from 1909 to 1958. That's probably the only
Is
one
a
I can tell you
Wheatie
when they
worth
minted
any
them.
more than 1 cent?
Some of them are. The 1909 SVDB. S is the San Francisco Mint Mark. VDB is the maker of the coin or the designer of the coin. It's the initials of the designer, and that one's worth quite a lot. But I have never heard of someone finding that one.
What would it be
People do.
worth? Like, what when you say it's worth
Actually,
quite a lot, like, what do you think that's worth?
yeah. So here's a book every metal detector should have. It's United States coins. They call it the Red Book, and I can look right up in here for you really quick. Um,
An SVDB sounds like
yep. So
a really weird
it's worth.
STD. Anyway,
Yeah. So 1909 SVDB coin is worth $700 in G4
oh,
condition,
wow,
which is the word like. Say if you had one in uncirculated condition or MS63, they call it. But it's not really uncirculated, but it'd be worth just under $2,000. So that's a
dang,
penny. So yeah, then I
that's
have
interesting.
yeah. I mean, back to the slang terms. We call these barber dimes. We just call them barbers. They probably have another name, but call them barbers. And mercury dimes we shorten to merc. Uh, Roosevelt dimes, 1964 and older. I forget when they started minting these, but we just call these rosies. Uh, Buffalo nickels.
So those are all things that you
This we just
found, or
call.
you found all those,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. I found all.
Wow, that's pretty cool.
So we call Buffalo nickels buffs. Indian head pennies. This is the sharpest Indian head penny I've ever found. I think it's real crisp. 1901, and we just call these IHPs or Indians. These are really cool. I love finding these. Um,
Wow.
then this is a standing Liberty quarter. We just shorten these to SLQ. So if you hear anyone say SLQ, that means standing Liberty quarter.
I never
This is
knew there was so much to do with coins. Like, even if you were
yeah.
to like go to a flea market and just look at these old coins and stuff, and like just, it's because you're a metal detector dude. Like, you start learning about coins and things that you will find in the ground, so you know a lot about just coins in general. You can probably go to an estate sale and look at coins and kind of know what the hell's going on, right?
Oh yeah. You can. We kind of memorize a lot of the key dates because when we're out there metal detecting, every coin we pull out of the ground, if it's old, it's got an old date on it. We like rub it and make sure it's like if it's especially if it's silver, we're careful with it before we rub it too hard or before we clean it off with water. We make sure it's not a key date, so we don't have to care as much essentially. But we still care about the silver coins. We don't want to scratch those too much because they could be worth something. Um,
That's pretty cool,
yeah,
man. So what got you started in metal detecting in the first place?
when I was young, my dad took me metal detecting a couple of times, but I didn't really grow up with my dad, so it was kind of short lived that hobby. But when I went to college, I kind of explained in the beginning, I learned that there is float copper and natural copper you can find occurring in the ground, and I knew somebody who was selling a metal detector, and I bought my first kind of real higher end metal detector off of a friend,
How much was it?
and I bought it. It was basically brand new when I bought it, but it was used. I got it for about half of its retail price for $300. So
Okay, $300. You buy this is your first metal detector. It's $300, right?
yeah, yeah.
And
First one.
what is the metal detector that you use now? Not the model, but how much does that one cost?
Retail, it's about 2,000 to 2,500. So it's a top of the line metal detector, and it can It's very
Is it like
nice.
five? Is it? Is it? Let's think here. Is it 8 times as good as that $300 one?
No, actually, I would say it's not. It's maybe not. Maybe it's 3 times as good. But maybe it is 8 times as good. Maybe I'm not giving it enough credit, but it's hard to describe. This one has a lot of different features, and it's more advanced than that $300 one I purchased. But they've both produced great finds, and that brings me back to you don't need the most expensive metal detector to find great things. But the way to you spend a lot of money on a metal detector that has a lot of features and a lot of analysis tools, and you learn how to use every tool in the metal detector, and it really helps you excel with finding good targets and being able to distinguish whether a good target is a target is a good target or a bad target, or if it's deep junk or a deep good target, or if it's a piece of iron next to a silver coin. Or there's a lot of situations that this new metal detector that I have now can really help you analyze, and because there's like graphs on the screen, different numbers to look at, and
Is it like a fish finder for the ground? Kind of.
essentially, yeah,
You're looking at like a
it's
screen and
almost
that shows you like, or as real time as you're going over, it shows you like where this thing exactly would be.
well, they have this thing called a pinpoint function, which kind of calculates where it is under your coil. It doesn't really show you what's under the ground. It kind of gives you an idea of what's under the ground and how deep it might be. So it basically spits out some numbers, has a ferrous number and a non-ferrous number, like conductive number. And based on that number, a higher number can be like a 5 is one of the highest numbers it goes. That could be, a $50. Then if it's like a 13, it could be a buffalo nickel.
Oh,
And
cool.
a buffalo nickel, unfortunately, sounds exactly like a pop tab or a pull tab off of a soda can. So bad signals to get a few good finds. So,
Okay. Um, so do you consider this to be a hobby that would bring people together? Yes or no?
yeah, I do. But interestingly enough, it's also a hobby that can be very secretive because of, if you find a good spot in public land, you don't want to go telling everybody about it because then that spot will be hunted out pretty fast. But it does bring people together, especially at like treasure shows and stuff like that. It's good to get a group of people together and talk about talk about it with like-minded people. And there's clubs everywhere. There's different clubs, and obviously there's Facebook groups, and that brings people together. Some people can
Cool.
reach out to different people on Facebook and go metal detecting together. So
Is it on meetup.com, for example?
it's
Like, would there
actually,
would
I'm
there
not sure
be
about
one on meetup.com, or there's definitely Facebook groups here in Austin? Yes or no for meetup?
that. Yeah, I bet there is. I've never looked into that, but I bet there is.
Wow.
It'd be interesting to check that out.
Well, I like to mountain bike, right? Like, and
So yeah,
like my first mountain bike was actually $300. My second one was like 600, and I went up, and I eventually have a good one now. But um, I went to meetup.com. It's like when I got kind of tired, my friends were like not wanting to ride and stuff. I just go to meetup.com, and meetup.com has all these like groups that are mountain biking like on a daily basis. So it's really fun. But I guess my question was, is there one for metal detecting? There might be. Who knows? Um, Schwartz Knox 3 says, are there metal detector dating clubs? Such a funny
I
question.
wish.
What is it that farming singles? You know what I'm talking about? There's a commercial like,
Farmersonly.com.
yeah, there you go, man. Farmers only, dude, metaldetectingonly.com. Find your metal detecting soulmate. Okay, so here's an interesting question. Like, is it mostly a hobby, or do some people make really good money doing this in their spare time?
In my opinion, it's mostly a hobby, but there are people that can make money doing it, such as like people with TV shows. There's a few people out there with TV shows. I'm sure they're making money. Some of the more popular YouTube channels, those people are probably making money off the hobby just from documenting their experiences. The gold nugget hunters in Australia are making some decent money if they're successful at finding gold. There are opportunities out there for making money metal detecting, like a lot of money. But I would say the average detectorist will find profitable items but they might hold on to them until they die, kind of thing. So,
Okay. So it's one of those things, like you're so proud of what you found,
but
like you're just collecting it and
yeah,
keeping it.
that's actually the mindset of most of the people I metal detect with. We don't really sell a lot of our finds, but I'll be honest. If I found a gold ring worth $6,000 with tons of diamonds in it, I would probably sell it because that'd be maybe money towards the newest and latest and greatest in metal detector, or maybe I don't know, paying off part of my student loans or something like that. So there is a line where I would sell my finds, but a lot of my finds are worth something, especially the coins. But it's kind of up to the individual if they want to sell them or not. So, but it can be very profitable in that sense. But overall, I would gauge it mostly as a hobby.
Okay. If you're a history buff, do you think that would just be a bonus for metal detecting, or not really?
Definitely, oh, definitely a bonus because that depending on your specialty in history or whatever you're good at in history, it could be it's like the research is already done. So um, you may only have to do a little bit more research to actually figure out a good metal detecting site to go to. Uh, really play in your favor. So
Okay. I have a question for the people in the feed. I'm seeing a lot of names that I've never seen before in my feed. I'm wondering if you guys are actually just subscribers of mine, or maybe you found this video somewhere else and some keywords or trigger words. Let me know. Like, I think you're one of my subscribers. I'm pretty sure all the people that are watching me are one of my subscribers, but I see a lot of people's names that I have never seen before. So it's kind of interesting. Maybe and that's what, when you come to my channel, you're going to find out all kinds of things about reselling and stuff. And then occasionally there's these like outlier kind of shows like this one where we discussed a really interesting topic. And I definitely picked your brain at the end of the day when we had a ride along, like 3 weeks ago, 4 weeks ago. Like it was just exciting to talk to you about metal detecting, like in your cool finds, and you showed me all these really neat pictures on your phone, and we talked for a long time, and yeah, you have like some really cool pictures. And all those neat pictures on Instagram, most of them.
uh, yeah, a lot of them are on Instagram. So
Okay,
I
so your
should
Instagram is where I put it up top. What is it again? Something
maybe Smosh. Yeah,
Smays.
SMAYSMOSH. Silly name.
SMAYS. Okay, SMOSH. Cool. Got it, man. Um, so you don't just find old things, right? Clearly, like what new things do you find on a regular basis?
Regular basis, I would say the number one new thing we find is new currency, like new coins. You got to think it's basically what people have in their pockets or on their body. That's so anything that could fall off a person um, could be potentially found by a metal detector. So we find a lot of new coins, and actually, we generate a lot of like coins we find each year. Just this year I have a few $100s just in coins that I found. So
Oh, wow.
then the other thing we find a lot of is costume jewelry and actually modern day jewelry. So a lot of rings and bracelets and necklace pendants with broken clasps or stuff like that. We don't find a lot of earrings because they're so small, but there's the occasional earring. But a lot of jewelry and coins is, I would say, what we find most of.
Most
And
common.
yeah, but unfortunately, I would say those are the good items we find, and it's arguable if costume jewelry is a good find or not. But it's more fun to find than garbage, which is unfortunately the number one thing we find. We'll create a pile of garbage before we have 10 good finds in our pouch. So
But
it's
that's what
it's
the
it's
hunt is all about, right?
yeah, it's about finding that next good target. So
Cool. We got some really good questions coming in here. So we're going to get some short responses here. From Debbie Thomas, it's not really a question, but more like a remark. In front of a courthouse is a knife honey hole. Is that kind of like, is that kind of true? Like people before they go to the courthouse ditch their knives and then it goes into the soil and then they forget about them. Like, have you ever heard about things like this?
no, I haven't actually heard anything about that or anything like that, but it makes sense. A few of my friends and I actually have been getting permissions to hunt old courthouses in local counties, and I've actually found a pocket knife in one of the courthouse lawns. So I guess there is some validity to that. So
That's
that
neat.
kind of makes me think about it in a different way, new light. So
Cool. My Titian says, does Josh use any macro metal detectors? Macro metal detectors?
No, I don't use that brand, but they're really good. It's a great detector.
Nathan Nathan Elsman says a really funny comment to that other comment. Says, "I hear airport security is a honey hole for knives as well." That's a pretty funny, that's a pretty funny remark. Anyway, let's get to Chris Napier's kind of question. What's the weirdest thing you've ever found?
Oh man,
Like something comes to the top of your head, like, okay, that was just like really odd. Don't know what it is, or I found out what it was. Crazy. Like, what do you think that would be?
I'm trying to think back. Find some weird things out there.
We can get back to that, but start thinking about it, all right? Yeah, I want you to think about that one because we're definitely going to get back to that question. So what are some of the more rare stuff you have found, and tell us about some of the values associated with some of this rare stuff?
Okay. Some of the rare things I've found most recently. A lot of the things I find, I'm really not sure how rare they are, but they could be completely common, or they could be super rare, or maybe just not found a lot. But something I found recently is something from the Republic of Texas. It's a Republic of Texas button from the infantry. So it's an infantry soldier's coat button. And it's got Republic of Texas around the outside of it with an eye in the center of a star. And this button is in my butt. I actually have a button book, as most detectorists do. And it's actually in the book, and it says it was manufactured in 1837.
Oh my
And
gosh.
the Republic of Texas was part of the. I don't know a lot about this history, unfortunately, but they were the Republic of Texas was between 1936 and 1946, I believe. So there was a small window where these buttons were manufactured. So, and I've never actually seen one come out of the ground. I've only heard of people finding them, but never really seen them until I found one myself. And two of my buddies that I go metal detecting with have also different style, but they're still Republic of Texas buttons. So
Well, that's
that's
neat.
probably
What would that be worth, Josh?
um, in certain conditions they could be worth up to $1,000 to $2,000. So great collector, they could possibly pay that amount of money. But mine has some damage from being in the ground and probably being crushed by rocks. But one in great condition could probably fetch that amount of money. So that's just hearsay.
So a
But
button is item number one. What else you got down there? That's pretty cool, man. The button's pretty awesome. I like that.
yeah. Other rare finds, I guess. Let's see here. I got some stuff from England, which I was going to talk about. These aren't super rare, but they're rare for Texas. Shield nickels. So this particular shield nickel is 1872. So this is a very old nickel. And they're actually, if you're into selling your coins, these are actually worth quite a bit of money per piece in their worst condition. Which this particular coin I held up to the screen is worth $35 just in that condition. So that could be worth quite a bit of money. They get worth a lot more as the quality goes up too. So let's see here.
So you find a nickel and it's worth 35 bucks. I'm not like a rocket engineer, but $34.95 of profit's pretty interesting, right?
That's pretty good return on investment. Yeah.
So what else
My
you got
friends have
there?
found nothing I can show, but I can talk about. My friends have found in the same places I've metal detected. They seem to be the lucky ones. They should be on here talking. But they found this. I think it's an 1895 O Barber dime. So O is a New Orleans mint, and it would look like this dime right here. And it would be from 1895, and it's worth in its worst condition $300. I think. I could probably verify that. But
Man, 300 bucks for a dime. Unreal.
It's
Did they know what they had when they found it? Yes or no?
no. Initially, well, the interesting thing is they found two of these dimes. Two different people found two of these dimes on the same property, and for that to happen, yeah, it says right here. Well, for that to happen is really slim. But in G4 condition, that dime is worth $375, and theirs were both in great condition. So they're just really lucky. A friend of mine found a $1 gold coin from 1851, which is worth a few hundred.
$1 gold coin from
Yeah,
1851.
Yep, and it's the
Wow.
smallest minted piece of U.S. currency. It's smaller than a dime, and so that was actually found at a home site that was built in, I think, the 20s or the 30s. So you just never know what you're going to find. So
That's awesome. So it was at that
yeah,
home site, but then it was like clearly from decades before even maybe the home was built, possibly. Like,
possibly, or it could have been it could have been that, or it could have been on somebody's necklace pendant that fell out of a bezel, or anything like that. So
wow.
sometimes people would wear coins like that in a bezel on a necklace, but
Okay. Let me ask you this. This is not even a question that's on the outline, but when it comes to the USA, what would be considered a metal detecting mecca?
oof.
Like, like that. So let me put it in context. Like I used to kiteboard back in the day, right? And like kiteboarding meccas would be like Kitty Hawk, North Carolina, lots places with a lot of regular wind, and Corpus Christi, right? South Padre
Yeah.
Island, right? Places with consistent winds are considered the meccas, right? So what would be a metal detecting mecca where maybe a lot of
Um,
people like they take like the pilgrimage to this place, like, oh, you gotta like hustle this place and
yeah.
metal detect your brains out.
Probably
Would be a beach.
like a picnic, not a beach, but maybe a picnic grove over on the East Coast, and maybe one of the original 13 colonies. Uh, that maybe might be a farm field at this time that's been turned over a lot. So, and with nobody else detecting it, and me being the first one there to find all the good coins. Over on the East Coast, it's ridiculous what they find and the amount of coins they find, and the age on the coins. So I think that would be the mecca for me as far as the U.S. metal detecting goes. Um,
So yeah, people
what
are
about
saying East Coast, Miami Beach, Gettysburg, Charleston, South Carolina. It's also, I mean, so the East Coast is clearly like a
yeah,
place like a lot of people find good stuff, right?
East Coast is where all the old finds are at. So,
Interesting.
and yeah, and when everyone watches the Hoover Boys videos, they'll realize what I'm talking about because they find some
Oh,
crazy stuff
I'm
up
gonna
there.
watch these videos, man. Are they the bona fide hustler of the metal detecting community? Yes or no?
Yes.
Okay, good. So they take time editing their videos, right?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, they're
Okay.
edited pretty well. So
Okay, cool. Well, I'm gonna watch one or
they're
two
only
after
10
this.
here now, but they're good. So
Um, so okay, so let's talk about what was one of the greatest finds for you or your friends found while metal detecting. Let's talk about you, your greatest find to date. Like you would consider this like this is the best thing I've found to date. How much is it? What is it and what is it worth?
okay. Um, my friends and I recently, in the beginning of the year, we went on a trip to England to go metal detecting in in Colchester, England, which is one of the first recorded towns in the UK. And so there's a lot of history there. And we found a lot of great coins. And one of my favorite coins to date is probably this coin right here. And I believe it's from 1475, and it's Charles the Bold. Some words I can't pronounce after that. So um, it's actually a French coin, I believe, and this was foreign to England. So to find a foreign coin from 1475 in England in this farm field that we had permission to hunt, or metal detect at, is pretty fascinating to me. So this is probably my favorite find to date.
That thing
Um,
is so neat
yeah,
looking, man.
yeah. So this is the back side of it. So trying to get it in frame here, but
Wow.
but that's not my oldest. I mean, I have a lot of favorite coins. It's hard to pick one favorite. That's the problem with metal detecting. You find a lot of cool things and you want to make all of them your favorites. But this is actually called a silver hammered coin. So the way they did it was they didn't have like a mint. Or, I shouldn't talk about this. I don't know enough about it, but they hammer these coins. So they're really flat and thin. They're made out of silver. So this is kind of like what we like to find,
That is
especially
neat.
over in, yeah. And this coin right here is from, it's a half, they kind of a half cut, they call this.
That's a coin.
This is from like,
That's just a cut
yeah, this
coin
is,
in half.
yeah, so you can kind of see the cross on that side. And on the other side is where the king's head is. And this is I think this one I believe is from 1247. So that's another favorite coin.
That
Then
is
I guess
crazy.
a close runner for second for myself, personal best, oldest coin I've ever found. That's dateable anyway. Is this one. This is a Roman coin, so you can kind of see the bust on that coin right there.
Oh, I can see it.
This, yeah, this is from. There's another little standing dude on the back. I should know the name of this, but I don't. But the bust on this coin, or this Roman coin, is from 304 BC.
What?
It's been
Get out of
identified.
town, really?
Yeah, 304. So that's the oldest coin I've ever found, and it's going to be really hard to beat that in the United States. So probably not going to happen
Dude,
there.
was there
But
any eBay back in 304? No. There's no
nope.
FBA in 304. That's insane. 304. Okay, so let me ask you this. Let's talk about that first coin and the second coin. I mean, okay, let's talk about
Yeah.
the first one. That's your favorite one. How much is that thing worth? What do you think?
Probably maybe it's hard to say. It's hard to put a value on these, but I would say probably around $100. So
That is nice, man. That's cool.
to,
What
to,
about
to
that
the right buyer.
304 BC one or whatever that one was?
Oh man, I have no idea how much this one's worth. Maybe there's collectors for these things, and I don't know not enough about the collecting community. $200 or $300 for this. I'm
How
sure
much? I mean, what do they make those out of?
these are bronze. This is bronze, and I'm sure people are eBaying, like going on eBay right now and typing in Roman coin and proving me completely wrong, but that's okay. Maybe they're $10, but see, that's the problem with the metal detectors and me, is that we like to keep our finds, so we don't really research the prices on them. But I know the American coins, and those are more of what I'm used to dealing with. The foreign coins, they're more of a mystery, and they're more of just a keepsake, and never going to get rid of those. And just so everyone's aware, that we went through all the right channels to get these back to the United States. As far as they're all disclaimed by the museum. They go through the Colchester Museum. So we had to turn in these big packets of all of our finds, and we couldn't bring anything back with us. I had to wait like
Whoa.
4 months to get all these finds back, and had to complete export licenses and stuff. So it was a pretty interesting and intricate process to get these finds back to the United States. So, yeah, but it was worth every second I waited to get them back.
Is it worth every
Um,
penny?
oh yeah,
I had to
definitely.
insert penny joke. It was a perfect time for it. um, okay, so let's talk about this next one real quick. So this is a really interesting show. Your friends found something like bonkers. You told me about this when we were eating tacos at Taco
Oh, yeah.
Deli. There was just, okay, so like preface the story, and then give us the reveal, and like how did you feel, and like all that kind of stuff. So what was going on?
Okay, so this is something any experienced detectorist that goes to England to go metal detecting is kind of the holy grail find. And for him to find it on his first trip is pretty remarkable. But it took a lot of work for him, a lot of patience, and like I said, not giving up. These fields are known for producing these items, and they call them brain sucker fields, because you can go 3 hours without hearing a signal, and then when you hear that little faint signal in the dirt, you kick away the dirt, and you might find this great item. And so my friends and I were tired of getting our brains sucked out, so we went to a different field. And my friends, my friends stayed in that field. 3 of us left, one stayed, and he prevailed. And
So his
we got a
brain
call.
wasn't sucked out all the way then, right?
No,
He still
it
had
was
some brain
still
matter left.
partially there. Fortunately for him, our brains were dead, so we had to go to a different field. But we got a call on the radio and saying they had code words for the good finds. Like, I forget what it was. It was like, we got something special or something like that. I don't know. We get back to the field and he reveals what it was, and it was a Celtic gold coin from 50 BC, and they called it a boat tree type. And it's what's interesting about it is that not only it's gold, it's from 50 BC. It's a Celtic coin, but the fact that there's only 9 of these coins known to be found in England. So it was a pretty significant find, and fortunately, he was able to get to keep it. The museum had disclaimed it.
Wait,
It was actually,
fortunately or unfortunately?
fortunately, he was
Oh,
able
okay.
to
I thought you
keep
said
it.
unfortunately he was able to keep it. I was like, wait a
Yeah.
minute.
No,
Okay.
no, no, no. No. I may have said that. Who knows? But yeah, fortunately, he was able to keep it because the museum has already disclaimed these coins from that field because they are part of a bigger hoard. And a hoard is where a lot of coins are kept together, then kind of scattered about or all found at once. Other rules about hoards and stuff. But so yeah, that was a remarkable find while I was over there. One of two actually. Another guy found a coin of a similar coin that was actually from 70 BC. So I got the two coins from 50 BC and 70 BC on this trip, and it was a remarkable experience to hold something that old in your hand, over 2,000 years old. So
what would a gold coin from 50 BC be worth present day? Like, is there even a value to it? Because it probably isn't in any books or anything, right?
they actually have to put some kind of value to it because of the rules. And the rule is with gold coins or gold items, in fact, if the museum keeps it, if they claim it for themselves to put on display, uh, the way the laws are written over there, the Treasure Act of like 1991, I think it is, the way that act is written is that if the museum keeps the coin, they pay you fair market value for it, which is another great hustling opportunity if you're a metal detectorist in the UK. So, and as long as you're reporting your finds over there. But his coin was probably valued at like $500 or $600, I think. And but since he got to keep it, the rules state that you have to split the cost of the coin with the landowner. So essentially, you're paying the landowner half the value of that gold coin. But we have the club that we're actually a part of a club over there, the Colchester Treasure Hunting Club. They work out deals with the landowners to actually cut that cost down to make it more affordable for you to keep the items.
So he's still paid
if
to
the
get the
museum,
coin out to the USA, right?
yeah, he may have paid $100 or $200 to get the coin. So,
Whoa.
and he's still waiting for it, and so that's how long it takes to get your stuff back sometimes. But it's worth the wait every second. So,
Dude, most people like wait for like lost luggage and stuff. This dude's waiting for a coin. If you think about it, it's like patiently
yeah,
waiting for a coin to
yeah,
arrive. That's
yeah.
interesting, man.
But another a relic find that probably one of my favorite relic finds that was found over there was a what do they call it? Like a brooch, like a not a brooch, but fibula brooch, I think they call it. It's actually what held the togas together in the Roman times. So like it would like hold it. It was like something they would wear on their bodies. So I think those are really cool, just because a person was wearing that. But
That's amazing. It's like, and then someone else like 2,000 years later in a pair of Levi's like scoops it up out of a field. Like it's just like,
yeah,
man, civilization just like went totally
yeah,
bonkers, man. It's like these little electronic devices and stuff. And we're talking about times when there wasn't any electricity or anything. It was just burning candles
uh-huh.
and whatever they had. And it's just crazy to think that, with modern day technology, like now it can kind of tell you like it's under the ground to a certain extent. So that's one of my questions. It's not on the outline, but these really amazing metal detectors that might be $2,000, $3,000, $4,000. How deep can they predict a reasonably good signal?
Uh, let's say a quarter, something like this, silver quarter. You can easily find this in good ground, not about 12 inches deep with certain metal detectors and certain coils. They make different size coils, and the coil is the search area at the bottom of the machine, the circular item at the bottom of the machine, in case anyone's curious. And they make different sizes for different hunting styles or situations. And I can actually pull up a couple if I reach down here. So this is a 6-inch coil. This is for my metal detector. Some people might recognize this as a Mine Lab coil. So this is the small range. This is small on the small side. This is the smallest coil they make for this metal detector. And this is what we use in England to hunt the fields. And this is a 17-inch metal detector, or a 17-inch coil. It's like 17 inches this way and like, I forget this way. So, and the stock coil for the machine is 11 inches. So something like this in good soil could easily find a target like a $50, a quarter, or even a penny. We've been known to find those types of coins at depths of 12 inches in good soil. And what helps good soil is moisture, and moisture helps make the target more conductive, which helps the detector
Pick it up.
detect it
Oh,
a
that's
little bit.
cool.
So, yeah.
Okay, let's go into rapid answer mode because I do want to get through this line and leave a couple minutes for like questions real quick.
Yeah.
All right, so let's blast through this outline. Let me think here. Okay, yeah, quick answers on these. Is there a process to grid search an area, or do you kind of just
Definitely.
go and yeah?
Yeah, there's a process, but when you're with a group of 4, you kind of do a free for all until you pick out all the good targets. Then you go back and find the harder to find iffy signals. But if you're by yourself, you grid it out by overlapping your swings, your coil sweeps, and also your grid patterns. You overlap those too, and you go back and forth until you cover the whole ground. And then you can actually go one step further and turn 90 degrees from the direction you're just gridding out. And then you might find a coin at a different angle that you couldn't pick up easy. So there's more material one way than the other way. So you might find it sitting in the ground this way, around the edge this
Okay.
way. Hitting at different angles really helps you too. So there's definitely a method to figure things out and being successful that way.
Okay. Do you find that the more that you prep, the better you have the chance to find stuff? Yes or no?
Yes, I think preparation is one of the keys to being successful with metal detecting, and I can say the same for hustling. You've kind of preached that yourself, so definitely be prepared and prep. So whether that means getting a good night's sleep or definitely doing your research.
Research on the grounds of where you're about to be, right? Like,
Exactly.
okay.
Yeah, research on the ground or even reading books that might lead to information. So preparation is key, and make sure you're hydrated and everything like that. So
Okay. Um, weather plays a role when it comes to soft soils. We talked about that, right? Or uncovering stuff.
yeah,
A lot of people say like, riverbanks, like you can find arrowheads because when the thing washes through, they're like thickened right out of the side. What's kind of a typical scenario when it rains real hard? Like, where would you want to be if you're a metal detector? You want to be at a field? Do you want to be at a beach? Do you want to, if it rains really hard, like where would you go here in Texas, for example? And you'd be like, all right, it rained really hard. This is where I'm going.
if it rains really hard, we like to go to a parks that was previously really hard ground. We like to avoid private homes because when it rains really hard, things get muddy, so we don't want to mess up people's yards and make them really terrible looking.
Yeah.
Because we try to leave the land like we found it, or better condition than we found it. So it's really important to us to make sure there's like no trace left behind. So that's actually part of our selection of where we go, depending on if it rains or not. So we pick places like fields and parks, or even like if you're out east, you might have better luck inside of a river or on a riverbank that's been heavily traveled by like maybe Civil War soldiers or something like that. So
Wow. That's fascinating stuff. I mean, just to think that you're finding things that, came from people way back in the day. They're not alive anymore or anything like that. It's just, they might have dropped something or something. They unbuttoned their coat a little too hard and it like popped off. That's crazy stuff, man.
it's actually really fun to try to come up with a story of how that item got there. Like how this spoon get out in the middle of the woods or whatever. So
Well, there's probably someone that wanted to eat something in the middle of the woods.
probably. Yeah.
Joe Molina says, "Hey Chris, this is a really interesting show. Thanks, Joe Molina. Thank you. I mean, that's amazing. Like, thank you so much for that comment. I thought it would be really interesting. If I think it's interesting, it is freaking interesting. Trust me. So, do you find any correlations between metal detecting and real hustling? Quick answers here.
Definitely. Like I kind of previously stated, preparation. With metal detecting, you definitely have to research and prepare. Uh, with hustling, you have to know your products, have a lot of product knowledge. Kind of know what stores to hit, garage sales, what areas are good in your neighborhood, stuff like that. So the same thing goes for metal detecting. You have to know what areas are good, what areas to avoid. You have to know the old neighborhoods. You have to know the good neighborhoods for garage sales, which you've mentioned before. So yeah, there's a lot of similarities between, and I guess what I'm missing is the most important one for me is the hunt, the treasure hunt. Like going to garage sales is like treasure hunting for me. So you're trying to find that next great item you could resell for a great ROI. Or with metal detecting, you're trying to find that next great home site that could produce a coin from the late or early 1800s or something like that. So just there's definitely a lot of similarities between the two.
Yeah, Fireside One says it's treasure hunting either way you look at it. That's a good remark right
Exactly.
there. So let me ask you this question. Let's switch gears a little bit. How did you find out about the YouTube resale community?
Actually, I was introduced by my friend Ed, who is actually another treasure or metal detectorist, and he was like the first person I kind of networked with when I moved to Austin for metal detecting, and we've been kind of friends ever since. And recently, we actually always used to go to to like Goodwills and stuff together, just to look for old books or silverware or whatever, silver bowls, whatever it may be. But he actually introduced me to your channel and a few other channels that you're affiliated with. So that's kind of how I got started on the hustling YouTube community.
Oh,
So
okay. So you watch my channel, and for a backstory, kind of, he approached me at an REI garage sale about 6 weeks ago, right? There was an REI garage sale. I showed up there, and there were some green roomers there, and we are just putting around, like, buying stuff. And Josh comes up to me, and he's like, "Hey, man, are you the bona fide something like that? Are you the bona fide hustler?" I was like, "Yeah, I am." And he was like, "I watch your channel. It's awesome." We talked a little bit, and I was like, "You should come on a ride along with me." And of course, 2 weeks later, we made that happen. So that's kind of like the backstory on how Josh and I met. But then from there, we were, having a great time. He's a beginner reseller, I guess. I think right now, but we were talking about all kinds of stuff, and at the tail end of the day, we started talking about metal detecting. I was like, wow, I'd really like to do a show about this to share it with the rest of my feed. So that's the reason why you guys are here watching this show, is because I was like, you know what, I want to share it with you guys as well. It might not be it might not be like the craziest, like FBA toy and games 2017 lists and Bolo lists of all time. Like, it's not one of those shows, but nevertheless, it's very interesting, and I thought it would be really cool to kind of at least get a bird's eye view on the whole entire operation. I figured, why not get someone that's very proficient at it and that cares about it to be on the show. So what are some of your other favorite YouTubers to watch that are that are resellers? So you watch my channel. What are some other ones that you, as a beginner, have liked to this date?
I've been watching your channel primarily. Sometimes I stick to one. I've been watching Rick and Profit and College Picker. So kind of like your whole group of people. And I really like their way of explaining information and kind of presenting themselves. So that's I've been kind of circling through those three. And there's a few others that I can't remember the names of, but there's so many out there to watch and learn from. It's pretty fascinating. So
yeah, it is fun. So you guys out in the feed, who's your favorite, reseller YouTuber out there? Let me know, and I'll make sure to let him know about that. I know a bunch, but let's just see who your favorite ones are, and I'll get to the next question. So if someone wants to get into metal detecting, where would be a good place to start for information?
At this point, I think YouTube would probably be the best place to start. Just whatever question you have in your mind about metal detecting, type it into YouTube, and there will most likely be an answer for you. Even a Google search, but I would say start with YouTube. There's people out there doing tutorials for everything and how to run a certain machine. There's like a tutorial for every machine out there, it seems like. So, and there's also channels that aren't geared toward really education to learn how to metal detect, but no matter what you do when you're watching these, you're going to learn something. You're going to learn about the history. You're going to learn about sometimes they go through what their signal is telling them on the metal detector. So I would say YouTube is by far one of the better ways of learning about metal detecting.
Okay. Hoover Boys is the channel to watch, though, right?
Oh yeah, that's my jam.
So Hoover Boys, are their last names Hoover, or they call it Hoover because they're sucking up really good? Like, what's the
second option there?
Okay,
Yeah,
okay. So they're sucking up really good stuff, right?
The main guy, I think the story goes, is he was finding so many things that they started saying, you're sucking the fines out of the earth like a Hoover vacuum. So he named his metal detector Hoover after whoever made that comment, and that's kind of how they created their whole channel and personas off of that comment. So they call themselves the Hoover Boys. So there's a group of people that kind of all hunt together or metal detect together. So
okay. Cool. So you can find his journey, Josh's journey, and some of his neat finds at Smay Smosh. That's at SMAYSMOSH on Instagram. Did I get that right? Smay Smosh?
Yeah, correct.
So you can find him on Instagram. You can follow the journey right there. I'll hang around for maybe 3 questions in the feed real quick, and then we'll be out of here. I thought it was a really good show, Josh. Thank you so much for being here.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me. It was really fun. So
Yeah, and plus Josh has agreed that he wants to see how some retail arbitrage goes down. So I figured, hey, for the next 2 or 3 weeks, I'm going to be pretty busy doing that.
Yeah.
So I might film. It's kind of hard to film with RA kind of stuff, but I might film with him there and kind of show him the ropes. And I don't think he's not approved for toys and games in this year, but at least it's something that he should learn and see how it's done, so that way next year he can start, preparing ahead of time, like in Q3, to be selling a bunch of stuff to where you get ungated in toys and games for the Q4 season. That being said, yeah, you might see him on a video later in my, he might be here next week or something like that. I'll try to film. Okay, no promises, but I'll try to film. RA kind of stuff is a little bit harder to film. It really is. But I think if you did enjoy the show, first of all, guys and gals out there that are watching, then make sure you hit the like button. That's super important. And yeah, you can follow his journey at Smay Smosh. So let me get these last questions out of the way here. People are just liking the show. There's like no real questions right now. We covered a lot of the interesting things already, I think, for the most part. I'm trying to see if there's anything else that someone wants to know about. There's some funny comments, like any alien artifacts you find there. I guess that's pretty much it.
Some things we find look like they are probably alien artifacts, but just lumps of crap usually. So
No meteorite stuff, yes or no? Anyone ever?
I think I actually may have found a little piece of a meteorite, but I don't have it confirmed. So
Cool.
I'm just
You talk about Raken, and Raken appears. Like you talked about Raken 7 minutes ago or something like that. So, Steve, if you're watching this, he watches me, you, and CP as of right now, and the Hoover Boys, but they're not resellers. So, anyways, yeah, but you speak of Raken, Raken appears.
yep.
He's like a genie. So that's pretty much it, guys. That's the show. Thanks to Josh, and you can definitely follow his journey at Smay Smosh on Instagram. Go check out some of the cool finds that he finds metal detecting. And yeah, if this piqued your interest or something like that, maybe you want one on your Christmas list, ask for a metal detector. Hey, what's a really good, this is the last question. This is not the last question, but this is the last question of mine to you for the feed. If someone's going to ask one of these for Christmas present, like, and Christmas presents usually don't exceed $200, $300, for the most part. What would be a good metal detector that's sub $200?
Okay. I'd say one with a lot of support. A lot of people who use it is probably a Garrett Ace 200. I'm not sure the price on that, but that's a really good starting metal detector. Or even that Tessero Compadre somebody mentioned in the beginning of
Okay.
the show.
What about a Garrett AT Pro? Is that expensive or within the same
that's around
ballpark?
that's a six to $700 metal detector, and that's actually what the Hoover Boys use. They use the AT Max, which is the new one that just came out, but that's a great metal detector, and that's comparable to what I have. It's just they're two different technologies. That's a VLF metal detector, which means very low frequency. Mine's an FBS metal detector, which means full band spectrum. So they're different technologies, which is probably why this one's more expensive, because it's a newer technology. But the Gear AT Pro is a great metal detector with a huge support group. So if you're looking to get in, I think that's a really good starting metal detector.
Okay, and the last two remarks are saying Garrett is awesome, and then Ace 150 or 200 is a really good beginner one as well. That's from my Titian, who's been commenting a lot of stuff about metal detecting in the feed. So Ace 150 or 200, is that pretty decent stuff too?
Yep. Yeah, definitely. That's yep. A lot of good support group for that too. I mean, there's so many, like I said, YouTube is a great resource for learning about these metal detectors. So those are great starting metal detectors, the ones that were mentioned, and you can find a lot of information on the net for those.
Okay. So that does the show, guys. Tune in next week. I believe we're going to have a thrift battle number 5 next week or something like that. So that's going to be awesome. That's going to be on Wednesday at 7 p.m. But hey, hit the like button, leave a comment down for Josh, because he will look at this video later on and look at all the comments. But I thought it was a great show. Josh, thanks for being here. All right, man?
Thank you.
All right. See you guys. Later.